to another episode of Quarantined Coaches. We are in Malibu, California at Pepperdine University with Coach Danny Worth. How are you, man?
Good, Josh. How are you?
I am good. This is quite the view you guys have at your field.
Yeah, you liking it?
I am liking it. If I were a fan, though, I wouldn't be watching any baseball. I'd just be staring out there the whole time.
Yeah, the parents enjoy coming to our games, and the players like it too. So it's a great place.
So you had a long, good, interesting baseball career, bounced around to a few spots, and I think you could offer us some really good insight just into the baseball world as a whole, not necessarily just the college game. So I wanted to dig through some of that with you. You went to Pepperdine, and you were a second-round draft pick out of Pepperdine. However, you were not recruited to be that kind of player, were you? So can you kind of take us through what you were like in high school on your way to that college to play?
Yeah, in high school, I grew up in SoCal. Went to Valencia High School. I was, 150 pounds my senior year when I graduated. So, I didn't have any meat on the bones and skinny as can be. Probably hurt, just the visual test among scouts and recruiters and stuff. I was definitely a late bloomer because of that. So, when I got into college, no scouts wanted me, no professional scouts wanted me in high school. When I got into college and I put on weight, things started getting interesting. I was catching up to a lot of different people. But opportunities coming out of high school, I only had a couple. Pepperdine was one of them. I met the coaching staff, really liked it, was really comfortable there. Made my decision.
So but you were not highly recruited at all out of high school, correct?
No, yeah, there was, I see the coaches who've been in the college game, in SoCal around recruiting a lot. And they always joke, they missed or, they passed on me or I couldn't do this, I couldn't do that. Why didn't they tell me I would do it? I showed up to Pepperdine. There was 3 upperclassmen starters in front of me, and I knew that. And I just kind of had to, work my way in.
So so you're kind of the last man in, I guess, recruiting wise. And then you get there and there's upperclassmen in front of you. So how long did it take you to get a starting spot?
It took like a game or two.
Jeez.
I had a really good fall. I think when I got on campus, I always joke to, Rick Hertenstein, our head coach. He was the assistant coach when I was there, played for him. I always give him a hard time because he thought I was a joke. They always kind of mess with me. They're, picking on me for fun and making me earn my stripes and stuff like that. I could tell, all in good fun. But yeah, after the fall, I think they had a meeting with me, our exit meeting in December, and they said something like, you're making our decision hard about the starting lineup. You're pressing the issue. So that was kind of nice. And then, we get back in spring, and within a game or two, I forgot, I was starting shortstop. Actually, I started in right field for 7 or 8 games or something like that. And then I went to shortstop. So they were trying to get my bat in the lineup, and yeah, it was an interesting road.
So what did you do when you got there to work your way up that ladder? I mean, what you must have been putting in extra time by yourself, or did it all just come together? Like, how does that happen? How does a kid go from not really being highly recruited out of high school to one game in, you're starting, and down the road you get, 2 years, 3 years later, you're drafted in the second round? Like, what the hell were you doing there?
I think, I just took it day by day. I had a lot of fun playing always. I didn't put any pressure, like I have to start, I have to go somewhere where I'm going to start. I kind of knew, like, I enjoyed practicing. I enjoyed hitting and fielding and learning and stuff, and just kind of put your time in. And if you work hard and you work right, good stuff's going to happen. So, I don't know. It's just stuff kind of clicked too. And I can kind of see it looking back, my senior year of high school and that summer before I stepped on campus, playing summer ball, things really clicked. It was just good timing.
Did you think you were that good or had that potential, or did you surprise yourself?
Like to play college ball?
Well, I mean, just to kind of take over when you got there so quickly and eventually turn into a second round draft pick.
No, no, I really respected the upperclassmen in front of me. They were, a lot of fun to play with and learn from. Great guys. I still talk to some of them, and yeah, just you know, I didn't know. And even my first 2 years of college playing every day, I was, it's a struggle, it's a grind, and it's day to day. And then I think my third year, my junior year, I started realizing like, okay, I'm I'm pretty good right here, right now. So just keep on doing what you're doing.
Would you say that now, as a college coach, you evaluate recruits maybe in a unique way because of how you were evaluated as a player at that age?
Yeah, I think in the recruiting world, I think it's really easy to see, the best guys, the most explosive guys, the fast twitch guys, the guys with the stuff already that are matured. There's a lot of different factors that go into that age group when recruiting them. And I think, the best recruiters, they project well, they find those hidden gems, they find the guys that they can mold, to their liking, or they think they could help and improve. And yeah, I was a total sleeper. So, you know, looking back, they got a good one when they recruited me. But who knew, it could have gone a million ways, and I'm trying to find that as well.
So, what are like maybe some deficiencies that were in your game? Like you mentioned before, the size, right, or the kind of the first impression to the eye. What were some deficiencies in your game, or that were maybe overlooked that you now look for in other players?
Well, I think from what people tell me, I could always field, I could always pick it, but my swing didn't look good at all. And there's no video back then to kind of go back down memory lane and stuff. But I knew just where I was. I did not have a pretty swing. But I think I had some things that were interesting in the swing, and I kind of looked for those. Just kind of how guys rotate or stuff like that yeah, I think some guy could turn into something if they keep working hard.
So it doesn't need to be the most mechanically sound swing when you're out there looking for a kid. If it works, kind of thing.
Yeah, and I mean there's a lot of stuff to hitting beyond mechanics that are maybe more important, like you know toughness and you know mental toughness and work ethic and pushing through failure and stuff like that. And I think the guys in high school who don't get the recognition or in the spotlight, maybe they push a little harder, and eventually, stuff kind of evens out, and those guys maybe have an edge in the future.
So you get out of Pepperdine and you go into the system. Who were you drafted by again? I forgot.
The Tigers.
The Tigers. Okay. And you end up spending 6 seasons in the major leagues. What was the highlight of your career to you?
To me, well, just getting drafted, that's a huge highlight, and then getting called up, your first time, it's really special. That's a big one. And then I got a chance to play in the World Series, 2 playoff teams, back-to-back years with the Tigers. Really special team, and probably the World Series. It's really really special time looking back.
So you said you got to hit in the World Series. I remember. So take me. What was that at bat? Who was it against? What was the situation? And who was the home run off of?
Yeah, well, I didn't get to hit. I tried to hit. I struck out. I got a pinch hit at bat off of Barry Zito in game 1. Verlander was throwing against him. We had our ace, and I don't know if Zito was the ace for them. I don't think he was, but they had a long series in the NLCS. So he was starting game 1, and Verlander got roughed up early and kind of got ambushed off the bench. Leland looked over and said, "Grab a bat, you're up." And I fouled off a couple pitches, had an okay at bat. But I struck out. So
Did you get one of those looping curves, one of those crazy off the chart breaking balls he threw?
I did. He threw me. I don't know if he threw me a couple of those, but I remember he threw me one, and I fouled it off down the left field line, and I missed the double by 15, 20 feet off the line, or maybe less. I don't know.
Why was a Barry Zito breaking ball so hard to hit? Was it because of what else he was bringing it off of, playing off of? Because, I mean, obviously there's a reason I'm not a professional and most of us are not. But you look at it and you're like, that thing's just kind of hanging there, isn't it?
I mean, stuff looks different on TV. He throws that thing big and loopy on TV, but in person, it's tight. It has it comes hard up and hard down. So, there's a big bite to it. And then, with his changeup and his fastball, he's kind of deceiving, kind of hides it well. I mean, there's a lot of different stuff that you have to be ready for.
Oh, I wouldn't make contact. I'm just
I didn't either. So, baseball hitting is impossible.
What was it like playing for Coach Leland?
Oh, he was awesome. He's kind of like the perfect clubhouse manager. He's super funny. I mean, we would do caravans around Detroit, and you give him a mic in front of thousands of people, and everyone's laughing, from minute one to the end. And his baseball knowledge and just the way he interacts with people, everyone on the team makes you feel comfortable and also pushes you, stuff like that. He's the best at that.
Do you think there's anything you took away from the way he coached into how you coach guys now?
Yeah, I remember, he's big on always telling, management and players, he wanted to know what you're good at, not what you're bad at. So, the game's already negative enough, and he was always focusing on the positivity and, I want to know what you're good at, not what you're bad at. Show me what you're good at, not what you're bad at, kind of thing. Or, maybe with scouts telling him certain things. He wanted to mold his team off of that.
Did he ever yell at you really good? Did he ever get you one time, maybe as a rookie or anything?
Oh, shoot. He messed with everyone for fun. I don't think he yelled at me ever. He might have gotten on me I missed a sign, I remember. And he told me that couldn't happen, especially with what kind of role I was in. And I understood it was just a mistake. And he never really got on.
I mean, when a guy like that gets on you, do you feel like you're back in high school?
No, you kind of maybe, yeah, but you kind of take a step back. You're like, whoa, like Jim Leland's getting mad at me. Like I messed up,
I mean, you have to feel like a kid again, though, kind of like you're getting, scolded by your coach or you look up to a little bit. I would. I would.
Yeah, I guess, it's definitely a reality check.
Okay, so after you played, you went over to the Korean baseball organization. You said that you were actually scouted. I remember you told me to go over there. So how did you end up there, and why is that a place that a lot of big leaguers end up going to later in their career?
Yeah, I went over there in 2017. It was my last year. There's always scouts over here. Korean scouts, Japanese scouts, everything. They're always looking at games. They're in the stands every AAA game. They're kind of looking for those guys who, so when I was with the Astros in 2016, and I was up in the big leagues, Alex Bregman took my place. So I got designated for him. He was, young up and comer. I was an old guy. They're going to take him, of course, talented, and he's the future and stuff like that. But, if they have a young guy that could do the same thing as an old guy, they're going to take the young guy 100% of the time.
It's not a terrible guy to get replaced by, at least.
No, yeah. He's a great guy, and, yeah, he's special. I was not that special.
So how did you end up over there? And why is that where guys go?
Well, you kind of have the option. You could sign back in AAA and try to work your way back to the big leagues, which is the dream, and go through the grind again. Hope there's an opportunity. Hope there's one. Or you could take the guaranteed contract in Korea for a year and see where it takes you. We've seen some guys like Eric Thames, Pepperdine teammate actually, revitalized his career over in Korea. He came back, signed a huge contract, and that guy's a main guy in the big leagues.
Yeah, I know you didn't. You said you got hurt when you went over there, so you didn't spend much time over there. But did you think there was anything the KBO did that you would like to see incorporated into MLB, or you thought, hey, MLB should do some of these things?
Yeah, they're really good with fan interaction. First of all, when you go play in Korea or Venezuela, or Mexico, the places that I played at, 10,000 fans, 20,000 fans. It sounds like 100,000 fans. So these fans are into it way more. And I think that's kind of the environment they set up, with the fan interaction. So I remember they kind of have, just like in Detroit or Houston or wherever, they do some fan stuff and maybe a caravan and everyone gets a microphone and talk. But in Korea, I mean, you go to the stadium, I remember, and there's 10,000 fans that paid in to hear you talk or hear your perspective on baseball or just get an autograph. And they give you a microphone and they play games with you. You got to get up and dance in front of 10,000 people with fans. You got to sing. You got to, do silly stuff. And kind of looking back, it's a lot of fun, and it kind of breaks down
This
the
is
barrier.
during a game?
No, this is like, a special day. Come see come
Oh,
meet
okay.
the SK Wyverns or whatever team it is. It's just like fun, quirky stuff like that breaks down the barrier between, these star Korean players and, the normal fan. But, everyone's just baseball fans and baseball people together kind of.
Right. Okay, so now you get done playing, you circle all the way back around to Pepperdine to coach and be a student assistant. So is it weird to be titled as a student right now at your age, or when you were student assistant?
Yeah, I came back, what was I, 31 or 2? I was in class, Hertensteiner was talking to me about finishing up. I always needed to. I never did. I had 2 kids at the time, and my third was being born in the fall when I was in class. I'm older than some of my professors. I have some life experience, behind me. But it was a lot of fun. My first time through, I just came to Pepperdine. I wanted to be a big leaguer. I wanted to, play baseball and play D1. I loved, the college game and stuff. And my second time coming back, you kind of miss reading books and miss studying and miss being, in a classroom and listening to professors. At least I did. So that
I was
year,
gonna say I don't miss that, but
I did. Well, I don't know. You play a lot of baseball, and you kind of
well, I guess that's true. You missed out on that a little bit, whereas I didn't really have the option to miss out on that somewhat.
yeah. And so that year was a lot of fun. I had a blast going back to school actually and finishing
How
up.
hard is it? I mean, that's one of the challenges young guys face today, right? Like if you get drafted, do you go? Do you not go? Can you finish? I mean, everybody's like, oh, you should finish your degree. Like, do you have any I don't want to say regrets because obviously everything worked out, but do you kind of wish you finished your degree earlier?
Yeah, of course. I didn't want to be back, with kids and a wife and, all the trying to career change and figure out what I'm going to do. I didn't want to go through, I didn't plan on going through that, but yeah, I think everyone's different. If you could finish early, do it. If you could not go, if you don't have to go to winter ball or mini camp or, early spring training mini camp or whatever it is, then yeah, you should take advantage of the time and take a class here or there and slowly finish up rather than later.
So coaching and playing are two different worlds, right? You're making the transition into coaching. Who did you learn from? How did you go about learning, and what were you learning?
About coaching,
Yes. Sorry.
I think Well, first, I'm lucky that Hertensteiner's, you know, my boss, the head coach. He's been at Pepperdine forever. He's been in the college game forever. Every question I have, I ask. He just gives me a quick answer. And then, just seeing how he works and everything, and how he's done it for so long. These guys that have been around the game for a long time, like him, they have it figured out, and they have, you know, they're hard workers. They're have everything set up, to try to win on the field. And there's a lot that goes into coaching. So, you have to get all your stuff taken care of. So you can worry about, that most important part, but it might be, uh, you know, maybe less of a job than other parts of the job.
See, I remember you mentioned Cooper Fouts to me, and how when you got there, he was a guy that you kind of just watched him move around the field and learned from him that way. What is it that you learn from a guy while just watching them move around the field?
Yeah, he, him and, Hurdy, and we had Rolando Garza, Jim Lawler, these guys that, I've been around at Pepperdine for a couple of years. They're You just see how the college game is. It's not all, drills and coaching and player development. There's a lot of stuff that goes into it. And watching someone like Fouts from the outside, when I was volunteering, or Garza, or Hurdy and Lawler, these guys, they're always on the phone. They're always talking to people. They're always working. They're always, trying to improve their player development, read new articles. There's a million things that go into the job.
So if you now you're looking through things through the lens of a coach when you're looking at things. So let's pretend that you were coaching your younger self, right? What do you maybe understand? Would you have liked coaching your younger self, or what would you have been telling your younger self to do?
Uh, yeah, I think I would like coaching my younger self, but I would tell him to listen more. I was kind of a little hard headed. I just like to put my head down and, push through, adversity and try to figure it out on my own a little too much. I would, I remember I had the hitting roving coach for the Tigers, the whole time I was there was Toby Hara, and kind of a legend. And he brought me aside one time, my first year in pro ball, and he told me, like, hey, this swing is not going to work. And I was kind of blown away. I was hitting 300 at the time. And then looking back at the end of my career, I eventually made those changes. But, I remember, like, I didn't trust him enough, or, I didn't take a step back and think, like, man, Toby Hare is telling me something important. Even though I don't agree with it at the time, I need to listen because this guy has been around, at least look into it some more. So
That's an old man. Do you tell that old man story to your players now? Like, hey, I was hard headed.
no, I don't think I mean, I tell them, the evolution of kind of my game and, what helped me or hurt me and stuff. But, I don't think I've told them that story.
Well, I want to get into infield with you, but I did forget to ask you, who were some of the big league guys that you were around that had a real influence on you, whether that was on the field or off the field?
Well, the Tigers teams that I was on was, special time in Detroit. They were going for the World Series. Even the Houston team that I got to get called up and play for a little bit. There's a lot of special players, really talented people. Altuve, Correa, Springer. I mean, like Verlander, all the Tigers guys, Magglio Ordonez. I mean, Victor Martinez. These guys, Scherzer. But you kind of take a little bit from everyone. But I remember, Miguel Cabrera took me aside one time, and I was kind of struggling. There was back-to-back years I was up and down 11 times in the big leagues in AAA. And I think he took me aside one time, and he kind of grabbed me in the cage and said, hey, you're doing this with your swing. You need to do that, and he was showing me, and just kind of, having a guy like him take time to help out someone like me, looking back, it was a special little moment in the cage that I always remember.
That is cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, some of those names you said, those guys are decent at baseball. Those guys are
Yeah,
pretty
yeah, yeah.
decent. Um,
I didn't get much playing time with those guys.
yeah. Again, at least that shouldn't make you feel bad. Those guys are all right. Those guys are all right.
Yeah.
Um, all right. So you're coaching infielders at Pepperdine. How is training or coaching infielders different today than it was when you were coming up through college?
I think, I don't know if there's been that much change. I think the more data there is, you could kind of direct a more efficient practice. Um, but in terms of like mechanical stuff with fielding, I don't see that many changes in my mind. And I think the guys that are dipping their toes in the fielding stuff and you know kind of publicizing it, they're kind of the first ones to do that in the fielding these last couple of years, and it's really interesting. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot
What
of
do you mean by that? I'm sorry, I'm a little confused. What do you mean by that? Like publicizing books and stuff? I don't know what you're talking about.
oh yeah, just talking about it more. I don't think like when I grew up, there was nobody talking about infield as much. It was kind of just take your reps and do this and do that. Nowadays, I think there's just being more attention to everything. Hitting's the same, or if not more, way more. But there's just more people diving into player development, I think, and a lot of smart people.
In your opinion, what is the number one rule for an infielder? Not first base, any other infield position.
Yeah. I think footwork. Um, you got to have good feet. And that doesn't mean fast feet. You don't have to be fast. I think there's a coordination, that you need to have. There's a rhythm. There's a dance. That good infielders have. That bad ones don't. So, if you could have good feet, I remember Omar Vizquel, he was my infield coach my last year. He told me something like, you don't catch a ground ball with the glove, you catch it with your feet, or, some kind of comment like that. But, there's some truth to that.
Another good one, huh? Um, so there's a lot of unique ways to do things, right? Everybody swings the bat different. Golfers have a different swing, but they're all, the pros, they're all really good. But there's also some fundamental truths about mechanics. So looking at maybe footwork or glove work, what is one of those fundamental principles of fielding that, hey, this is the right way and there's no other way?
Oh man. Fielding's, it's so unique with everyone. And there's a million things that could happen. It's tough to think of a truth. But I would just say like your preparation, like in your first step, you have to be ready. Whether that's a mini hop, or some kind of walk in, or a pressure shift on the corners, something like that. And then shoot, I would say how you respond to failure. Just like everything in baseball, I think that teaching a guy how to deal with failure and how to push through is probably the most important part of coaching. That doesn't get talked about a whole lot. And then fielding, it's easy to strike out, two times in a game, and then you get two hits, later in the game, and you feel great. Uh, you're 2 for 4, but you make an error, and there's 30,000-40,000 people looking at you. It's tough to bounce back the next at bat, and be locked in. Or if that runner gets around a third and that's the game winning run and that's your run kind of thing, do you want that ball again? Are you looking for it? Are you anticipating it? Do you crave it? You have to.
Well, perfect. Because I wanted to ask you a couple of just fun questions about your playing career before you go, and you led me into number one. What's the loudest set of boos you have ever received as a pro player at any of the pro levels? What did you do wrong?
I think there was one time I got called up where they told me that I was going to come up and face or play in one game and get sent back down, regardless of how I did. And I was facing this pitcher that I was crushing in AAA. and he got called up, so they're calling me up to match him, whatever, you know. And my first at bat, you know, I had like a couple homers off this guy and, you know, some other doubles and stuff over the course of a year. And my first at bat, I got jammed, like a little jam job flare to first base, you know, embarrassing at bat. And I got booed by the fans. And, you know, it hurt my feelings a little bit because, you know, I knew I was only up for a game and I was getting sent back down already. And now you're booing me, you know, but looking back, it was kind of funny.
We're all humans here.
Yeah.
It hurt my feelings a little bit. Who's the best pitcher you ever faced in, you know, to you? Again, I mean, there's a lot of good pitchers out there, but for you, the toughest pitcher you ever faced, and how'd that at bat look?
Oh my gosh. Well, besides like every bullpen guy in the big leagues that's just filthy and you want no part of, you know, Sale and Kershaw and Cliff Lee, you know, these guys. I mean, I remember facing Cliff Lee and thinking, you know, kind of watching him on TV and stuff for years. And it's like, okay, he's nasty, you know, but it looks kind of straight sometimes. And he struck me out twice and threw me all these backdoor cut sliders and cutters and stuff on my hands and change ups or whatever. And, you know, I had no shot.
All right. Well, we're beating you up here. You obviously had a really good career, played for a long time, and you know I think every kid growing up that loves baseball right now, if you told them, hey, you could do this and exactly what you do, everybody would sign up in a heartbeat. So, what was a good at bat? What was an at bat you look back at and you're like, hell yeah, I did that?
You know, I had a I hit a double off of Lester off the Green Monster one time.
Ooh, fun.
That scored a run in a big situation. That was a lot of fun. Just because I feel like I faced Lester a million times. I always got to start against him, and he was, you know, he got the better of me a lot. But I don't know. I just remember that one. I remember walking against Chris Sale one time, and it was a really good at bat, just fouling off pitches, and he was so nasty. But yeah, I don't know. It's tough to pin down.
What about fielding? You remember a good fielding play you made?
Yeah, I got probably one of the ones that stands out the most. Like, you know, in the playoffs, they Leland put me in late as like a defensive replacement for Peralta, and I made like this backhand play on the run, almost a double play. Infante almost turned it, and but it was a huge situation, you know, against Oakland. You know, they were on a run against us, on a roll, and yeah, that was a good one.
One of your, and you had, obviously we talked a little bit about Leland. Who was another one of your favorite coaches to play for, and why?
Oh my gosh, so many. You know, like Steve Rodriguez at Pepperdine, and Hertensteiner together. Those guys are really special to me. Rodriguez is at Baylor now. You know, Tom Brookins I had in AA, and he was a coach in the big leagues as well with the Tigers when I was up. He was special. These guys, they're so competitive, and you know, they push you and they make you feel comfortable, you know, in the baseball setting. The game's hard enough, and yeah, these guys, they meant a lot.
So out of all the levels and places you have been, which level is just the most fun to be at?
The big leagues, you know, of course.
No, I mean, I don't know. Some guys really enjoy the minor league atmosphere or the college atmosphere, but big leagues, not too much pressure, not too much
yeah, I
business
mean,
like.
yeah, and then, you know, there's some AAA teams that I was on with some of the best guys ever. And then, yeah, my Pepperdine years, those are still my favorite years of my life when I played here. So that's a big reason why I'm back, and I love being here. And, you know, but yeah, the big leagues, it's special. It's kind of what everyone hopes for one day, and playing in big stadiums and stuff like that and
I
traveling.
mean, how cool is it to play in the big leagues?
It's cool.
I mean, we all grow up and we look at pro athletes and, everybody's walking around all cool and everything, but like, you're just like a little kid in a candy store, right?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, there's a lot of pressure that goes with it, and a lot of stuff. It's cutthroat, and it's, if you don't do your job, you're out. And everyone knows that. But we all watch like Mike Trout and stuff, and guys like that, and Verlander, and it seems so easy. So everyone thinks they could do it, but you kind of get there, and yeah, it's hard, but it's awesome. I mean,
So what's next for Coach Worth?
helping Pepperdine get to Omaha. That's the goal. So that's something I missed out on at Pepperdine. And we were in a regional 3 times when I played, and it was a huge goal of mine back then. So I would love to have our guys go back.
What needs to be done to get you guys there, aside from being able to play a season?
Yeah. We had a really good group this year. Really special group. Who knows what would have happened, but it would have been interesting down the stretch. We had a chance, at least, like everyone. But I think just continuing to get better. That's the easy answer, and I think we're on the right path right now. I think the last couple of years have been in a good direction.
I appreciate it, man. This was a fun talk. We got a little bit of just entertainment value, and learn about baseball, just the whole society, going even over to Korean ball and college. And your story is a cool one of just a baseball player, growing up. So good luck to you, man. Hopefully I'll see you this summer.
All right, awesome. Thanks, Josh.